Now the next paragraph. It is most true that was anciently spoken, a place showeth the man, and it showeth some to the better and some to the worse. So he says that there is an ancient saying that a place showeth the man, meaning that a person who is highly placed is judged by the way he behaves and conducts himself in his official capacity. So how a person behaves when he is in great place reveals what the person is, reveals the true character of a person. Some people, when they assume great offices, turn out to be better than what people expected of them, whereas some others turn out to be much worse than what was expected of them, because power can easily corrupt. So some people, when they get power, they become worse human beings, whereas others behave very responsibly and set examples. And it showeth some to the better and some to the worse. Then there is a Latin line here. It is the word. These are the words of Tacitus, the Roman historian, and Tacitus said this about Galba. Okay, Galba was a Roman king of 69 AD, who was a contemporary of Tacitus. Tacitus lived from 55 to 118 AD, and he happened to live at the time of both Galba and another ruler called Vespasian, who came. Galba was succeeded by Vespasian. Vespasian was the Roman king from 69 to 79 AD. So after observing both these rulers, Tacitus made an observation. This is what he said about Galba. He said, all men would have held him fit to rule had he not ruled. And about Vespasian, he said, he was the only emperor who changed for the better. Okay, so you can see how different the two opinions are. The first one, omnium consensus, so that line means all men would have held him fit to rule had he not ruled. Means Galba, once he became the king, turned out to be a very bad ruler. People who thought that he would be a good king thought just the opposite afterwards. Once they saw him as the king, they understood that he is not at all fit to be the king. Whereas in the case of Vespasian, just the opposite happened. He was the only emperor who changed for the better. That is what Tacitus says about him. Vespasian actually improved, became a better person, a very good leader when he assumed kingship, though the one was meant of sufficiency and the other of manners and affection. So the first remark about Galba was said about his efficiency, and the second one about his character. But whatever, when a person is in office, the way he behaves tells a lot about his character. So in this case, Galba proved to be a failure, whereas Vespasian turned out to be a success. It is an assured sign of a worthy and generous spirit whom honor amends. For honor is or should be the place of virtue, and as in nature things move violently to their place and calmly in their place, so virtue in ambition is violent, in authority settled and calm. So a virtuous person allows honor to amend him. That is, when a virtuous person, when he occupies an important position, he would become all the more virtuous. The higher the place, the more virtuous the man. The next paragraph. All rising to great place is by a winding stair, and if there be factions, it is good to side a man's self whilst he is in the rising, and to balance himself when he is placed. So he says, rising up to a great place is by a winding stair. It is not easy to reach a position of authority. You have to take a winding stair, in the sense that it is always going to be a difficult climb. And if there be factions, it is good to side a man's self whilst he is in the rising. So if there are factions, if there are quarrels, happening between people which in any way affects your climb, it would be the best thing to choose your side as you are climbing. Even as you are climbing, you are ascending in power, it is better for you to proclaim your allegiance. Who do you support? Are you going to support this side or are you going to support that side? While you are rising, you should do this, because once you reach the top, you have to balance yourself when you are placed. In the sense, once you reach the top, you cannot take sides, you have to be neutral. So if you want to take sides, do it while you are climbing. Once you reach the position of authority, as a good leader, you should be unbiased and neutral. You cannot take sides there, because when you are the superior, you should mete out justice equally to all. You can't have favorites. So that is the idea here. All rising to great places by a winding stair, and if there be factions, divisions, it is good to side a man's self while he is in the rising. So always support or show your allegiance when you are climbing up, and once you reach a place, you have to be neutral. So you may take sides in the course of his upward journey, but once you reach there, you should be neutral. That is the sign of a good leader. You can't show favoritism. Now the last paragraph. Use the memory of thy predecessor fairly and tenderly, for if thou dost not, it is a debt will sure be paid when thou art gone. So he says, use the memory of thy predecessor fairly and tenderly, in the sense, do not talk ill of your predecessors. Do not blame them for their policies. Be fair and tender with them, because if you don't do that, you will be paid, your debt will sure be paid when you are gone. If you always speak ill of people who went before you, the same thing will be done in your case. The people who come after you will be slanderous and they will talk ill of you. So always show respect to the people who went before you. Do not criticize them openly or speak ill of them in front of the others. If you do so, the people who come after you will do the same about you. If thou have colleagues, respect them and rather call them when they look not for it, than exclude them when they have reason to look to be called. So he says that if you have colleagues, that is people working with you, people almost of equal rank, don't be over haughty and don't be arrogant. Instead, respect your colleagues. Call them, approach them. Even when they don't expect you to call them and take advice from them, do it, because they will be really happy about it. Call them, that is, seek them. When they don't expect you to call them or ask for their advice, talk to them, and instead of excluding them, instead of there might be times when they expect you to call them. So instead of excluding them, instead of avoiding them, see that you maintain cordial relations with them and talk to them and seek their advice. That would make sure that your position is secure, and that it will also ensure their cooperation. Be not too sensible or too remembering of thy place in conversation and private answers to suitors, but let it rather be said, when he sits in place, he is another man. Now, when you are not in your official capacity, when you are not, when you are away from office, that is, do not be too much aware of your position. That is, sensible here means sensitive. Remembering means being self-important, or remembering here means conscious of or self-important. So when you are talking to people, private answers to suitors here means when you are talking to people, when you are not in an official capacity, remember to be humble. Forget the fact that you are a great officer. Act in a very normal manner to them. Don't behave with them as though you are somebody of great authority. Behave in such a simple and a humble manner with modesty that people would later say, when he sits in place, he is another man. So that what he is trying to say is, don't display your official airs when you are away from office. Be like an ordinary man, so that people will admire you for that. They'll say that this man, is he is he the prince, or is he the king, is he the judge? The other day when he came to me, I didn't know that he was such a great man, because he behaved in such a simple manner to me. That will not in any way diminish your reputation. Instead, it will enhance your glory. People will think highly of you if you behave like this. So that is how he ends the essay. When he sits in place, he is another man. You should make people say that this is a great man. He doesn't show off, boast of his powers when he is not in office. Okay, so these are the points that he has mentioned about of great place. And when you think about them, you can find that most of them are very sound and practical ideas. And these apply then and now. Anybody who is occupies an important place would benefit from all these counsels that Bacon has put forward. And that is why we say that Bacon's essays hold ground even today, because they are always relevant.